Hello and welcome to this new episode of Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers podcast. I'm Matilda and I'm your host. I'm an inner transformation mentor supporting women in healing mother wounds through the one-on-one 10 weeks program and through Reclaim Your Fullness online community. To know more about these offerings, sign up to the newsletter or visit the website womenreclaimingtheirfullness.me. All the links are in the description of this episode. And if you're listening to this episode this week, on May 5th, we're actually opening the doors to Reclaim Your Fullness community again. So there's going to be a few spaces available, and you're welcome to follow the link to the waiting list below in the description if you're interested in that. So with that said, let's talk about the topic of today, which is flying monkeys. Has your narcissistic mother unleashed flying monkeys on you? Have you set strong boundaries with your mother and are now afraid flying monkeys will come next? I had no ideas what flying monkeys were, beside the ones in The Wizard of Oz. When I went no contact, some family members unleashed, and although I was kind of expecting it, knowing my family, it still became very intense very quickly. So the question that comes next is, how do we deal with them? Flying monkeys can be family members you thought you had a good relationship with. They can be friends that suddenly turned against you. They can be helpers or figures of influence that suddenly are believing your mother's story over yours. And this can be intense no matter what the situation is, no matter what the boundary is. This could be a going no contact. It could be that you're setting more and more boundaries with your narcissistic mother. And this can also apply to any sort of narcissist person, really. So we're talking in this episode, we're specifically talking about narcissistic mothers, but this can apply to narcissistic partners. This can apply to narcissistic people on your workplace. It's really narcissistic people tend to mobilize flying monkeys when things are not going their way. So whenever their needs are not met the way they want, they then get this bunch of allies that we're gonna see the reasons why these people turn into flying monkeys, but that they're gonna support the narcissist and they're gonna somehow turn against you and make your life a little bit intense. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what are flying monkeys and 6 steps to deal with them. So receiving the attack of flying monkeys can leave you feeling more alone than ever, can leave you doubting yourself and your decision. So whatever boundary you've set, if we're talking about a decision of going no contact or whatever was the boundary you set, they could be unleashed when you've decided that you're not going to join your mother for Christmas, or you've decided you're not going to go on holidays with her anymore, or you've decided that you don't want to do things that she's asking you constantly to do anymore that were taking so much energy for you. So whatever the boundary is, whatever the thing that you're doing, flying monkeys are there to bring more self-doubt for yourself and to have you doubting your decision. They're going to use gaslighting. So you're going to feel more gaslighted. You're going to start feeling like you're seeing things. Like if all of these people are supporting your narcissistic mother's story, well then, it's a whole bunch of people against one. So it's going to be harder to really be convinced of your decision and grounded in your decision. They're going to make you feel guilty about your decision. They're going to make you feel anxious about who will turn against you next, because you don't know what's going to happen. Like these people that you thought were actually friends of yours, or that they loved you because they were family members, now suddenly they're against you. So who's going to be the next person that's going to turn against you? A lot of anxiety can come in then, and they're going to make you feel judged by everyone around you, because if these people that were so close to you are now against you, what's everyone else going to think? What's people that weren't even that close to you going to think about you? So that feeling of feeling judged is going to come in. So all of that can be experienced when we're at the receiving end of an attack by flying monkeys. Before we go into how to deal with them, let's have a quick look at what flying monkeys are. They are usually people who are connected with both you and the narcissist, in this case with you and your mother. But as I said, this can be applied to any narcissistic person in your life. They can be family members, common friends, any support person you may have in common. For example, my mother and my grandmother went to the same therapist, which is not uncommon. I do get a lot of clients and people reaching out that are actually seeing the same therapist as their mothers. And this can be a very risky situation, because all of a sudden, when you start setting a boundary, that therapist, if they're not understanding, or that person that's meant to support you, might not be a therapist, whatever that is, but that person can tend to believe your narcissistic mother's story over yours, and a lot of gaslighting can happen. It could be a spiritual guide, maybe, which could be someone you both followed, and that was being like some kind of a guiding person for both of you, and now all of a sudden this guide is choosing to believe your mother's story over yours, and so on. So why do flying monkeys believe the narcissist? How come that this person that's connected with both you and your mother, with both you and the narcissist, all of a sudden takes side with the narcissist? Most flying monkeys are either enablers or ignorant about narcissism. Therefore, naively unaware of what is truly going on. So if you don't know about narcissism, if you're ignorant about it, if you want to keep yourself in this naive view of how things work, you are going to tend to believe the story of the well-crafted story of the narcissist over the story of the person that's actually recognizing narcissism for what it is. The enablers have their reasons to be enablers. They may be conflict avoidant, for example, so they side with whoever seems stronger to them. They may have their own interests at heart, and it is more advantageous for them to side with the narcissist than with you. Within a family dynamic, we usually have roles that we feed into. So there are the roles your narcissistic mother gave you, such as the scapegoat, the golden child, the invisible child. And there are also the roles that you may have taken on to survive as a child in a dysfunctional family, in a family dynamic that was toxic, such as the hero child, the mascot that has to make humor out of everything, the caretaker, and so on. So these roles suit, although they may have been roles that you've taken upon yourself in order to survive, like I was the caretaker, so I know how that feels. But these roles also suit the narcissist, and they also suit all the enablers around them. So when you set boundaries for yourself, you start stepping away from the role, or more than one role, you've been playing in the family dynamics. And this is very upsetting for everyone, because it pushes them out of their comfort zone. Whatever they were doing, whichever way they were keeping themselves sort of shielded, or they were meeting their needs, you step away from your role, now they're not getting their needs met anymore. So, for example, I was the caretaker in my family as well as the golden child. To sum it up, I was the one taking the brunt of my mother's emotional toxicity and the one managing her too. I was the only one that was able to communicate to her, talk to her, kind of manage her when she was at her worst. As well as I was the one taking care of my vulnerable narcissistic grandmother and managing her needs and tending to her needs constantly. So when I set my boundary of no contact, all the others who had gladly sat on the sidelines for most of my life while I was taking care of all this stuff had to get involved and feel the intensity which was my normal everyday life since being a small child. Guess what? They did not like it. And so they came to the attack. So that's within the family dynamic. When we're setting boundaries with a narcissistic mother, we are also stepping out of whatever role that we've been playing within that family constellation for years. And this is uncomfortable for everyone that remains, because if that role was being played by you, it means that role was needed somehow within that toxic dynamic. And so now someone else got to feel it, and they don't want to do that. Or it's causing contrast. Like, for example, if you are like me and you were the one managing your mother or managing the emotions, keeping everyone, like, the one in the middle that keeps everyone happy, then all of a sudden that role is vacant and there may not be someone else that wants to take it. So that can cause people to turn into flying monkeys too and want to believe their narcissistic mother story over yours, because they want you back to get into their role, and they're upset that you're not playing their game anymore. What I've observed in my experience, not only with my own family, but with other family dynamics I've been part of, is that you have different types of flying monkeys, 3 main different types. So the first one is the malicious one, which can be narcissistic and very self-serving. And they will go all lengths to get their needs met. They will attack outright, so they can get very insulting and very in your face. They can bring on the famous smear campaign and start talking bad about you with everyone and do all sorts of that. They can be more subtle also in their manipulations, using gaslighting, guilt tripping, and all the arsenal you know from your narcissistic mother, including gossiping, which is part of the smear campaign, triangulation, and also spying on you. They can do this online, like keeping track of what you're doing, maybe on social media and stuff, or in person. Then there's the ignorant ones we mentioned, the ones that don't know about narcissism. They actually have no idea. And this can risk becoming flying monkeys, but they don't know what's happening. They actually truly believe they may even mean well, like they actually may truly believe they're trying to help you, although they may be acting from a place of meeting their own needs, subconsciously anyways, but they don't really know that, and they're not out to hurt you, although that may end up be the result anyways, because with this behavior that is naive and ignorant of what narcissism is, they may end up doing things that actually cause you hurt, no matter what. And then the third type are the false allies. These are the ones who play both sides. And they're my least favorite, as they can be the hardest to spot. So they pretend to be on your side, as well as they pretend to be on your mother's side, or whoever the narcissist is. They're ultimately on their own side, and they have their own needs at heart, of course, but they may be collecting information from you to report to the narcissist, for example, while pretending to get to understand you and to want to talk to you, to help you and support you, and to get the reasons for the boundaries that you've set. In reality, what they're doing, they're just getting information that they can use in their own dynamics with the narcissist. And so they're like keeping a foot in both shoes. So now that you have more clarity on what flying monkeys are, let's talk about how to deal with them. And there's 6 steps I want to talk about today that can be supportive. So the first one is spot them, spotting them. The first step is learning to spot the flying monkeys. There may be some that you will expect to become flying monkeys. You kind of know already. I knew in my family there was one person for sure who I knew was gonna behave that way, and this person did not disappoint. For the ones you may not be so sure about, look out for signs such as a sudden change in behavior towards you, whatever that is. A sudden interest in your situation when they never even asked you or listened to you before. So if this could be a friend or a family member, a family friend, like someone that you weren't even so close to before, and now all of a sudden they're so interested in you and they want to know every detail about what happened with your mother, that's a red flag. A sudden being overly nice to you, that's a red flag. As well as a sudden change in behavior in the other direction. They're all of a sudden very cold with you. They were actually really nice and you were close to them before, and now all of a sudden they're not talking to you anymore, or they're actually expressing judgment quite heavily on your behavior and all of that. So a sudden change in behavior can be a good way to spot someone that has turned into a flying monkey. So if you spot any of this, be on your guard. Second point, is to be very selective with who you share details of your situation with. You're in a situation where you're after setting a strong boundaries. Maybe you want no contact, or maybe it's another kind of boundary that you've set, but of course you need support. Yet not a lot of people are going to be able to give you the support you need. And especially when we're talking about that kind of flying monkey that plays both sides, or the ignorant one that doesn't know about narcissism, is just being naive. These people, this type of flying monkey, can present themselves to you as being really nice, and actually it seems like they're supporting you. The same can be in the situation where we spoke about the possibility of someone that's a support for you or a helper, such as a common therapist or a common spiritual guide, or anyone that was supporting you, a teacher of some kind that was common between you and your mother. They may seem like they're actually getting you and they're the people to turn to, but if they're turning into flying monkeys, this is gonna become very unsafe very quickly, because whether they know it and they're doing it on purpose or not, they're gonna collect information from you and report it to your mother. Somehow, some way, that's gonna happen. So keep a small, tight group of trusted people which you trust, and with everyone else keep your conversation superficial. Don't share details about your situation, about what you're going through with the narcissist, about your decisions, about your feelings, with people that you're not sure if they are turning into flying monkeys or not. It's safer to assume that most of the people you have in common with the narcissist will be flying monkeys, and then be pleasantly surprised with the one that turn out to be truly understanding of you, than the other way around. Then to assume that they're all going to be on your side and then to be really hurt. So, as I said, this is particularly important with the false allies, the one that try to play both parts. It's better to play it safe and assume that anyone that you have in common with the narcissist could actually be, whether they do it consciously or not, but they could turn into flying monkeys. It's better to have support that is completely away from your mother or the narcissist in question. So to seek support, to confide, to speak details to someone that is completely outside of the situation, that doesn't know your mother not very well, that is not close to your mother. That's the safest option. Thirdly, trust yourself. I know it's easier said than done, as self-doubt is one of the things we live with as daughters of narcissistic mother. It is very easy to feel gaslighted by flying monkeys and to feel doubts about your judgment, rationalizing the reasons why such person said or did such a thing to you. So it's easy to tell yourself that maybe they didn't mean it that way, or maybe it wasn't them who spread the lies about you, or maybe they didn't mean to tell your mother that thing that you asked them not to tell. It's all very easy to do this, and we tend to justify other people's actions quite a bit. You already know that they did what they did because they intended to. And even if they didn't intend it to, like the ignorant one, the ignorant flying monkey, they still did it and it still hurt. So trust your gut, trust your system, your wisdom, trust yourself. If you feel there's a red flag, if you feel that person is behaving in an odd way, if you feel unease, if you feel that person doesn't come across as trustworthy to you, trust that. Next point, keep a record or a journal. Write down the reasons for your boundaries, the experiences you've been through that brought you to set such boundaries. You know, if you've got no contact, there's clearly experiences you've been through, hurt that you've been through, triggers that continue, that gets repeated by your mother, behaviors, toxic behaviors that she keeps doing, abusive behaviors that she keeps going back to, that caused you to go no contact. This is gonna help you getting grounded in them, and it's gonna help you navigating the situations in which you get gaslighted, that you get told that you're the only one that isn't getting it while everyone else is. If you have a record of the things that are happening and that have happened, that have caused you to set that boundary, you can go back to it and actually read that and literally use it as a grounding technique, as an anchor to bring you back to, okay, no, there's actually a bloody reason why I had to do this. And okay, they're all saying that I'm wrong, but I know it because this is what I've written here. I am grounded. I know that this is why I had to do this, to protect myself. That can be really, really helpful. Next point, no drama. So when engaging with people who you know may be flying monkeys, don't get involved in any of the drama they're trying to stir. They're going to try and stir drama. They're going to try and provoke you. They're going to try and convince you that what you've done is wrong. They're going to try and guilt you. They're going to try and make you react so that they can prove that what the narcissist is saying about you is true, that you're too sensitive, that you're overreacting, that you're problematic, that you are the issue. They're going to try to steer that and make you react. So no drama. Grey rocking can be a great tool here. Short answers, engage as little as possible, if not at all. Remember that you are not obliged to engage. You can choose not to engage with people that are insisting and they're pushing. Next point is no converting. So don't try to convert them or to convince them of your side being the right one. They have plenty of unconscious reasons to behave the way they do, and this will only drag you into conversations which will result in more hurt for you and more ammunitions for them to use, and also for your narcissistic mother if they're reporting to her. So the trying to convert can be particularly tempting with the ignorant, naive type, because they're not actually trying to hurt you, they just don't know. Yet, because they don't understand narcissism, they may end up reporting back to your mother out of trying to help, which may make things worse. So keep the details to yourself, and it's better to err on the side of caution. Final point, boundaries. And of course, we had to get to boundaries. You have the absolute right to say, I am not discussing this with you. If you insist, I will leave this conversation. You can apply the same steps of boundary setting as with your narcissistic mother. You may need to go no contact with some flying monkeys too, as well as you've done it with your mother. If that's the boundary you've set, if you've got no contact with your mother, you may need to do that with some of the flying monkeys too. It may have to come to that. Some are going to be that intense and that toxic that you may have to do that to protect yourself. Especially the malicious ones that we spoke in the beginning, the first type, who will stop at nothing to meet their needs, even if it hurts you in the process. So the steps of boundary settings is the exact same as setting boundaries with your narcissistic mother. You're going to apply the same steps with the flying monkeys. There's going to be some people that you want to kind of maintain the relationship, and so you can just say, I'm not discussing this with you. Thank you for asking, but I'm not discussing this with you. I appreciate you asking, or you're so kind in asking me about the situation with my mother, but I'm not discussing this with you. And when they ask you why, because I'm not ready, I don't want to. I don't want to talk about it. And if they insist, then if you insist, I'm gonna have to leave the conversation. Let's talk about something else. You have every right to do that. And then you have every right to actually get very direct with people that are pushy and that are toxic and they're insisting, and go, I am going to leave the conversation, or I'm going to leave the room, or I'm going to hang up the phone unless you stop insisting. And if they keep insisting, then you do that. Then you hang up the phone. Then you stop the conversation. So be it. You don't answer their messages. If you gotta block them from social media because you realize that they're spying on you or that they're gossiping on you, you do that. If you have to block them on the phone, you do that. You do that with flying monkeys just the same way as you would do with your narcissistic mother. Anyone that's being toxic with you, anyone that's being disrespectful of your boundaries, doesn't get to have time with you. Remember, your time, your energy, they're all precious resources, and you deserve to be safe and protected, and you deserve to focus your time and energy on people that actually get you, on people that respect you, on people that are gonna go, yeah, I really see what you had to do there. So find a group, find support with people that get you, and set boundaries with anyone that doesn't. That's like, if you wanted to go into how to deal with flying monkeys in one sentence, is find support with people that get you wherever they are. This may be a completely new set of people, and set strong boundaries with the ones that don't, with the ones that are not getting your decision, that judge you and refuse to get it and try to convince you to go back and don't want to listen to you, they're not actually interested. You see, a person that's genuinely interested, it's going to respect your decision, and it's going to ask you what they can do to help you and support you. They're not going to ask you the details, the gossipy details, and they're not going to tell you what you should be doing, and none of that. What you should be thinking, what you should have done different. That's not helpful. A person that's genuinely has your best interest at heart is gonna just be there for you and ask you, how can I support you? Do you need anything? Is there anything I can do for you in this? I don't even need the details. Just tell me what I can do. That's a person that's worth keeping around. So that's how we deal with flying monkeys. Let's go back through it. I believe it was 7 steps in the end. So the first one was spot them. Okay, spot them. Learn to spot them. A person that changes behavior towards you suddenly in a very suspicious way, that's a big red flag. Second point, be very selective with who you share details of your situation and of your life. Like sometimes when you're going to contact, you're moving country, you're moving house, you're going completely somewhere else. You don't want to give those information just to anyone. You want to make sure you give them just to the people that you really, really trust. And anyone that is a common denominator between you and your mother is not to be trusted unless they prove to be very trustworthy. Third point, trust yourself, trust your gut, trust your instinct. Keep a record or a journal about the reasons why you had to set the boundary. Do no drama. Don't try to convert the flying monkeys. And 7, set boundaries. Set boundaries. And on the boundaries topic, you can download the free boundary setting roadmap through the link in the description of this episode, and that way you're gonna have a tool, like it's a really potent tool to support you in setting the boundaries that you need. And it's the same roadmap for your narcissistic mother and for the flying monkey, and for any narcissistic person you need to set boundaries with. It's going to work just the same. It's the same process. It is a repeatable process of 3 steps. So you can download the free roadmap through the link in the description. And with that, I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have questions. If you want to share your experience, you can do that in the comments below. With that, I am gonna wish you a wonderful week and send you lots of love. Bye for now.